Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another live stream here on Free Will Photos. Today, we're going to be taking a look at importing images into ON1 Photo Raw. All right, that's what we're going to be taking a look at. So before we dive into the content or today's live stream, look, if you have not already, go ahead and check the description box below. There's going to be a link that takes you to the email list sign up. All right. I don't spam you. I don't send you a bunch of nonsense. In fact, I really only send stuff that's centered around the Free Will Photos community, presets, things like that. Just for signing up, you're going to get some free presets, but you also get contact for some of the additional presets. So if you haven't already done that, go ahead, check the description box below. Completely free to do so. Now, also, if you are kind of on the fence about ON1 Photo Raw and you're like, I don't know if I'm ready, then in the description box below, I have an affiliate link. You can go ahead and use that to download a trial version, test it out, see if it works. And if you do purchase from there, I get a small commission. It just helps keep this channel moving, and I greatly appreciate it. All right. Now, let's go ahead and dive into some slides. Let's dive into some slides. Where's that button? There it is. All right. So obviously today we are going to be talking about ON1 Photo Raw, but more importantly, importing documents into it. All right. Here is today's pushing wrong buttons. There we go. All right. Here's today's agenda. All right, we're going to look at importing or the menu itself. We're going to look at the import menu itself. And then we're also going to look at the new features that ON1 updated into Photo Raw 2022. Now, if you're on 2021, this will be a great video just for you to kind of get an idea of what information is available now in the import module for 2022, because I know that they talked a lot about the export, and I even did a little bit of a review on the export. A full video is coming on that. But the import menu has some new features, and we'll see, if they're value added. I'll give you kind of my opinion and scenarios in which you can use those. Also, we're going to be looking at some tips and tricks. Again, that's just self-explanatory. That's the whole purpose of me being here, is really just to share what I know. And then the good tokens to add during importing. Again, more tips and tricks, and you'll know more about tokens if you don't already by the end of this video, or at least this training and video if you're watching this on the replay. Then we're going to look at generating subfolders during import. Generating subfolders doing import, if I can say that right. We're going to look at that and see if that's even something worth value for you. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We'll talk about that. And then we'll wrap up with some upcoming videos for the week. And then, of course, questions and answers. All right. Now, I already have a series of questions, but I am here to answer any questions from anyone who's on the live stream. So please feel free to drop your questions in the comment section. And then also, if you have questions and you're watching on the replay, drop it in the comment section anyway. I do check all my comments, and I do get back to answering questions. There's no question too big or too small. If I don't know, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm just going to say, hey, I don't know. But if I do have an idea of the answer, or I can at least point you to the answer in the user manual, I will absolutely do that. All right. So here are two questions that I have for you, though, before we get started. The first one, and you can go ahead and type your answers into the comment section below, regardless of if you're on the replay or if you are on the live stream. The first question that I have is, do you use ON1 Photo Raw to import your photos? And how will the new import module change the way you manage your files? Now, if you can answer this question right now, or you can wait until the end of the video or the training to see if this is something worthwhile. But if you're using On1 Photo Raw, just let me know in the comment section below if you are, and if this is going to change the way that you import. I know that it's going to change the way that I import just a little bit, but maybe you guys have some different ideas on that. And then the second one is if you're using a separate program such as Photo Mechanic or and I don't know of any other ones, but maybe you're using Lightroom to import photos, and then you're exporting from Lightroom to then go grab some photos off of your hard drive from On1 Photo Raw. I don't know, but whatever you're using, maybe you're just clicking and dragging your photos from your SD card or a second hard drive into a folder, and then you're just pointing On1 to that particular folder. So just let me know if you're using a separate program, and then if the information or the new features inside of the import module are going to be beneficial for you and you're excited to use those. All right. Now, before we get into the live demonstration, I feel like we should all be on an even playing field. All right. And the slide that is here is really a very basic slide. And I'm going to get my head out of the way so that way you can see the whole slide. There we go. All right. So a file goes through a progression, right? You take the image, and then that's what is on the left-hand side. That's what's on your SD card. This is going to be the RAW file or the JPEG based off of whatever format you shot the image in. Then you're going to go from there to some sort of import. This is where Photo Mechanic comes in, Lightroom, On1 Photo Raw, or you're just going to click and drag your images from the SD card to some folder inside of the a hard drive. Now, this folder is the first place that your images are backed up. All right. So it's important when we talk file management and the progression of a file to add in some information that your camera just, it doesn't actually, it doesn't help you with, right? So it's important that we do that here now as opposed to later down the line, which is why I would never recommend just dragging your images from an SD card to a folder, which there's nothing wrong with that, okay? If we're talking about just safeguarding your images and making sure that they're archived and backed up in some capacity, there is nothing wrong with that. However, you miss out on an opportunity when you do it that way. At least, for efficiency's sake, you miss out on an opportunity to rename the files to something a little bit more useful than the number soup that comes out of your camera. Or you miss an opportunity of renaming the files with extra metadata, keywords, and things of that sort, and even adding descriptions, and we'll see that here in a second. You miss out on those opportunities, all right? Which is why I recommend using some sort of importing program that allows you to do that. But that's what brings us to the middle section. And then we're not going to get into it today, but once you get done editing your photos and you have all of that, it makes sense to have some sort of final destination for your edited images to reside, to live on some sort of hard drive. Doesn't matter how you choose to do that. Personally, I use the same hard drive. You can use a separate hard drive if you want to, but it should be somewhere where hey, when I get done editing these photos, I'm going to export them. And that is a practice that I'm getting into because let me know in the comment section below who edits their photos, but then doesn't actually export them. I'd be interested to know how many people do that, because I know that is a thing. I do that from time to time where I spent time editing a photo and never exported it. So let me know in the comment section below if you do that and what you guys have experienced by doing that. I have personally lost edits because I click on the photo and I didn't create a version, and I start doing stuff. And without even thinking about it, I just click on browse again, and now I've made edits to a photo that I thought was completed, but it clearly was not completed because it wasn't ready. So, food for thought. Now, let's go ahead and should be the last one. Yep. And then this brings us back to the live demo. So let me just go ahead and click here, and then we're going to jump into ON1 Photo Raw. All right. So here we are in ON1 Photo Raw. And if you guys were on the live stream the last time, you would have, you're probably familiar with these photos. Well, I went ahead and took some new photos. So let's just jump right into the import module. Now, for those of you who are curious, yes, I am currently running ON1 Photo Raw in Rosetta. So now that doesn't hold any bearing on the import module. I'm just letting you know that I'm running it in Rosetta right now because what I have experienced, and let me know in the comment section below if you've experienced this or not. Rosetta, sometimes it lags behind, and it shouldn't, but that's what I've experienced. Now, I don't have any like bench stock test marks or benchmarks or anything like that. However, just the experience, I have found that it does lag behind just a little bit. Nothing that is catastrophic that I'm like, oh no, this is terrible, but just food for thought. All right, now we're going to hit File, Import from Device, and I have an SD card in, and here's a series of photos. I took these while I was in Colorado Springs. I'm not actually going to upload these. Now, to make sure that we're all on the same playing field, I am going to do a very brief overview of what is inside of this import module. So let me just minimize all of this so we can go step by step, line by line. All right. And then I think that can be. All right, very good. So over on the top left-hand side, you can choose which item you want to import from. Right now, I'm just going to go with EOS Digital, but if you had more things attached to your computer that you want to pull information from, like an external hard drive, maybe you have an SSD where you backed up some photos while you were out in the field, and now you want to import them into your final library. And incorporate that into your larger library, which is what I did with these photos, but that's for a later discussion. Then, of course, you can tell ON1 what you want it to do when it's done with the import. You can eject when done, or don't import duplicates. Now, don't import duplicates. It's not going to capture that in this particular instance because none of these images, to the best of ON1's knowledge, have been imported yet. Unfortunately, they have been imported. They just were imported a different way. So that's why ON1 can't find that these photos were ever imported. FYI, and I could be completely wrong. So if you know the answer to this, drop it in the comment section below. But here's what I believe happens. There is metadata that's built into every photo, and it has a number that is unique to that photo, or a serial indicator that's unique to that photo. When ON1 searches the photos that are already associated with your catalog or your library or your images, it'll give a little indicator like, hey, this has already been imported. And we'll see that a little bit later. But so the reason I'm bringing that up, when you rename your images over here using the renaming dialog box, when you rename your images, it's okay that it doesn't match with whatever the camera name says right here, because in the background, some portion of what makes this file unique, ON1 is able to read that. So if this was number 1 out of the camera, but I labeled this water with sun, it's going to look for number 1. It's not going to look for the file name water with sun. All right. So that's how ON1 is tracking this to the best of my knowledge. But again, if I'm wrong, drop it in the comment section below. Let me know, because I love to be corrected. All right. Then you have some indicators here. I'm not going to go over those because I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence. They do exactly what they say that they do. All right. I'm actually going to check none because I want to select the photos that I import. Then that brings us over to our actual dialog boxes. Now, to make this simple, I'm going to scroll down, and I took some photos this morning of some super awesome Lego thingy-majigs, and there they are. So I'm going to click here and hold shift and then click on the last image. Now I only want to import these images, so I'm just going to check the little icon, the little circle here next to those next to the first image after I've selected all the ones that I want to import. And that's going to check just those images. So now I don't really have to worry about what's going on over on the left side here. So what I'm going to do is make this a little bit larger if I can. And it doesn't look like it wants to let me. So can I drag this out? Yes, I can. All right, because this is where all the work is really going to come in. For some reason, I can't make this any smaller. So we will do what we can with it like so. I'm going to move this up because we'll need that space down at the bottom here in a second. All right, so the very first thing that you're going to do is you're going to choose a destination that you want your images to go to, right? That's pretty self-explanatory, and there's a few ways that you can choose what destination you want your images to go to. You can choose to have your images go to a recent location, which, as you can see, I've been in a few different locations recently. You can also choose your cataloged folders. So if you have multiple folders cataloged, and if you're not familiar with catalog folders, drop a comment down in the comment section below. I will be more than happy to make a video that explains those. But you can also check the user guide, the ON1 Photo Raw user guide. And it explains pretty good what catalog folders do, but I can show you what a catalog folder benefits, or the benefits you can get from that. And then you can choose a current browse location. Now, right now, I am currently in this path right here. So photo drive, personal work, landscape images, moon, and sunrise. So if I wanted to save these images into that folder, then that would be the current path option or current browse location. All right. And then of course you can choose, and when you click on choose, it's going to bring up the dialog box that brings you all, like, you can go wherever you want to navigate or explore to the hard drive and create a folder location. Nothing surprising there. All right. But then you can select to put a subfolder of images, and then this is where you name the folder. So this is where my first tip comes in. If you know for a fact that this is like these particular images, I'm going to say Lego Friends, right? You can name it whatever you want. Doesn't matter what you name it. This is just whatever you want your folder to be, because that's what I want these images to fall into. Now, I want this to go into the still life photos folder because I like to categorize my folder, my photos into landscape, portraits, animals, and then still life, products, things like that, food. It just makes it a little bit easier for me on the back end when I'm like, hey, I know I took a photo of something, and then I can click on the little, my categories, and then say, okay, inside of that category, I may have 100 folders, but at least I know somewhere within that category, the image that I'm looking for lives. But I'm going to show you another way that you can search later, or at least information that you can put in, and then you can use that in search to pinpoint what you're looking for. All right. So Lego Friends. And then you can also check this box that says secondary folder. So you're probably wondering, all right, Chris, what's a secondary folder? Well, this is a good opportunity for you to back up your images. All right. So if for whatever reason you're like, you know what, I really, really, really need to have two copies of these images on my hard drive, one copy that I'm going to edit, and then the second copy that I'm going to archive and backup. If you are doing any sort of paid work or anything where you're like, man, I really cannot lose uh, my images, I highly recommend that you use a secondary folder on a completely separate hard drive, and then even back that up to like a cloud service. If that is, truly what you're trying to do is archive these images. Okay. Otherwise, you can leave that unchecked and it'll be fine. For today's purpose, I'm not going to do the secondary folder, but it does work just the same as clicking and hitting choose and then navigating to whatever hard drive that you want to install, or I'm sorry, upload your photos to in a secondary folder. All right. So that is the destination piece. The next thing is going to be renaming. Now, renaming is really cool because they're now offering presets, and maybe ON1 Photo Raw 2021 had presets. I've been messing around with this. My personal favorite preset to use is just the crisp basic naming, and I just set this up when ON1 Photo Raw 22 came out. What this lets me do is, if I know that I'm going to name these Legos, right? I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to name this Lego Friends. Yeah, I think I got 2 R's in there. That's what it is. All right. And then you see these little gray boxes here. These are called tokens. Now, tokens are extremely powerful. More so on the export, in my personal opinion. But I have found a way, at least for me, where I think this will be value added for the community here at Free Will Photos. So I'm going to share it nonetheless. So the way that I use tokens is I want to start identifying the camera model that the image was shot with. And the reason for that is I have 3 different cameras, all right? I have my first camera, which is my Canon EOS R6. I have the Canon EOS R, and then I have the Nikon D3400. Whenever I take a photo with any of those cameras, or I want it to be able to say, okay, this was taken with this camera, makes it a little bit easier for me to look at the file name and say, oh, that's what camera I used. So whenever I go on a shoot and I'm using both my EOS R and my R6, I know what I have. You don't have to do that, but that's a personal preference. And then I love sequence numbers. And you can change these to whatever you want, right? So I can click on here and go to sequence number and change from sequence to total. I'm not quite sure what the difference is between the two, but nonetheless, it should work out just fine for you. And give me 1 second. we're back. I think there's some challenges with the stream quality, but nothing I can do about it right this second. Yeah, so I will turn it off at the Q&A and then come back and see if that fixes it. But I want to get to the full training, so to speak, so that way we stay on topic here. Okay. So the sequence number and all that good stuff. Very, very good. You know what? I'll be back.